My name is Frank Miele. I'm the Economic Development Officer for the town of Grimsby. Thanks for coming up. This is our second town hall meeting for the tourism strategy, which we are currently undertaking. Last time we were here, there was no hockey games, so there were 30 people. And it wasn't raining, so that's probably one of the couple reasons. So tonight, what we're going to do is our counselor. So we have two counselors here tonight. I'm just going to introduce the fellow that just walked in. Is Nick DeFlavio is our counselor for Ward 4, and the counselor Reg Frake, Ward 1. Who else is here from members of council? That's it? Good. So what we're going to do is have the Context Research Group, who is our consultant for the tourism strategy, is here. They'll be asking a few questions. We expect you to come before the podium over here, sit down and ask your question or your comment that you want to make, and then we'll make sure that somehow we put it into our strategy. I'm going to introduce you to Alexander, Celine, and Mike here. I think Alexander is going to make the presentation, and then we'll listen, okay? Any questions thus far? So state your name when you go here, because this is live on the internet. They'll be watching you. Okay? Thank you. Go ahead, Matt.
Thanks, Frank, and hope nobody got too scared about the whole live on the internet thing. But thank you for taking the time to be here this evening. I'm Alex Mazanik, and I'm joined by Celine Fatour and Michael Tracy, so both sides here. We're from Context Research Group, an independent Canadian-owned and operated research and facilitation firm that has been engaged by the town of Grimsby to support the development of a new tourism strategic action plan. Thank you for coming to our second town hall. And clearly, people here today are all either not Leaf fans or don't know that there's free wine at the art gallery tonight. Yeah. Sorry, you're already here. You can't leave. Okay. So our role tonight is to facilitate this conversation, listen carefully to your ideas, and gather feedback that will help shape the direction of the town's tourism strategy. We're here as neutral facilitators. We're not decision makers or tourism officials, and we're genuinely interested in hearing your thoughts and experiences. Our goal for Grimsby's tourism strategy is to develop a plan that encourages a healthy and robust tourism sector while focusing on sustainable economic growth. We want to ensure that the strategy recognizes the needs and supports required to work with local partners like yourselves in making this happen. The session is recorded and live on the internet, like you know. So basically, the setup is as follows. We're gathered here today to learn more about your connection to Grimsby, whether this is through work, community, or lived experience. Your local knowledge is essential to ensuring the strategy reflects what makes Grimsby unique and what will work best for this community. Tonight's session is scheduled for up to 2 hours, so we've got plenty of time. And we've designed it to make sure everyone has the opportunity to contribute. And here's how the session will work. We'll begin with a brief introduction and some guiding context about the tourism strategy. Then we'll move into a series of structured discussion topics covering things like Grimsby's identity, tourism gaps, community benefits, and sustainability. And most importantly, you'll have a chance to share your thoughts before we end the session tonight. Throughout the session, we encourage you to speak openly. You can offer suggestions, share experiences, raise concerns, or even just ask questions. We do ask that everyone respects one another, listens actively, and helps us keep the discussion focused and productive. This is a space where all voices are welcome and every perspective is important. If you're more comfortable with writing your feedback, we have the option for you to submit feedback electronically at the end. After this town hall, we have cards, which we should actually distribute. Mike, have them in my bag. So Mike will pass those around in a moment. So there's a little QR code there that you can scan, and it will give you access to a survey. Okay, let's move into the next section, which is what we know so far. What we know is this: Grimsby has a strong foundation, but it's under-promoted. Grimsby is rich in cultural, historical, and natural assets, but many are not widely known or promoted beyond the region. The Niagara Escarpment, Lake Ontario shoreline, and Grimsby Beach Painted Ladies offers striking scenery and heritage appeal. The events calendar is full of potential, with gatherings like Ribfest, the Ways Goose Book, Arts Fair, and movies in the park, but many visitors learn about these only after they arrive, if at all. People often come for weddings, family events, or day trips, not because of a clear tourism invitation. Visitors are coming, but mostly by chance. Grimsby hotels report steady traffic from corporate stays, sports tournaments, and wedding guests. Many visitors stay here as a more affordable alternative to Niagara Falls, but don't stay long or explore much locally. Grimsby is often a base, not a destination, but with better coordination and promotion, that can change. There is no central tourism hub yet. Right now, Grimsby does not have a centralized source of tourism information, no local tourism office, no consistent digital guide or brochure, limited coordination among hotels, businesses, and event organizers. Many operators feel they're on their own to promote Grimsby. Some have even had to beg for brochures to share with guests. The tourism-related businesses are eager for coordination, shared tools, and a common voice to represent Grimsby tourism offerings. There's room to grow if Grimsby defines its story. Grimsby has strong appeal for visitors across 4 key categories: arts and culture, outdoor and recreation, food and drink, events and experiences. But Grimsby lacks a clear unifying theme. Visitors don't always know what the Grimsby experience is supposed to be, and without that narrative, Grimsby risks blending into a very competitive regional landscape. The storytelling approach needs to connect these assets into a shared identity, something memorable, place-based, and emotionally resonant. There are real barriers, but also clear opportunities. Some of the barriers that we identify is lack of marketing materials, no formal tourism committee or network, limited overnight accommodations, absence of a signature attraction that drives repeat visitation. The infrastructure is here, but it needs a vision, a strategy, and coordination to thrive. Grimsby is growing, and tourism can grow with it. The town's population has grown by 35% in recent years and continues to rise. There's growing interest in Grimsby from both residents and external investors. A well-executed tourism strategy can support small businesses, revitalize the downtown, strengthen community identity. We can attract sustainable visitation, not just seasonal surges. This is a pivotal moment. We can either shape tourism to serve the community's needs or let it grow without direction. So these are just kind of thought starters of what we know as our early context so far. So let's keep all this in mind. Let's begin to get a sense of what you, the residents, and those who work in Grimsby think about all of this that I just mentioned, and maybe beyond that. Okay? The first topic we're going to cover is Grimsby's identity and appeal. And let's begin by exploring how you see Grimsby and how you want others to see it. This part of the conversation is about values, personality, and identity, the heart of what Grimsby represents. Would love to hear what you think makes this place special and how we might express that to future visitors. Okay? And there's a few questions out on the board there. I mean, I'd like to start kind of broad and maybe begin with what makes Grimsby feel special to you. But of course, we can do deep dives on some of these other questions here as well. For example, when someone visits Grimsby, what should they absolutely see, feel, or experience to truly enjoy this town? Are there any hidden gems or lesser known spots you think we should be showcasing more? Anything really that comes to mind just to kick things off. So if you'd like to, I think you have to come over to the table and push the microphone button. Thank you for being the first.
There we go. Hi, my name is Ben Perkis. I'm a resident of Grimsby. I've been here for the better part of 8 or 9 years. I own a small business and rent office space out of Boondog. I'm also a member of the GDAC committee, just so everyone's aware. But we moved to Grimsby because it's beautiful. Everyone that we met was incredibly welcoming. The landscape and the housing, all of that, you've got a yard. When we were comparing looking at either buying a condo in Toronto or doing a half commute work from home, where can we go within an hour at the time anyway, not anymore, but 8 or 9 years ago, we landed on Grimsby because you could get a beautiful property and welcoming neighbors and friendly atmosphere. One of the hidden gems we discovered was a waterfall in the backyard, right up 40 Creek. So it was a surprise that we didn't even know existed until we started exploring. And for us, it was a staple that we would walk up and down on a regular basis. And that was one of the little hidden gems, and we've watched the town grow and watched businesses and restaurants come in, like Luca's, which is right in the middle of downtown, which is one of our favorite spots. But it certainly is changing in unknown ways, and it's certainly a concern, but it's not really necessary for today. But for us, it was the beauty of it, and that's why we'll continue to grow our roots here and let them go deeper and raise a family here.
Thank you for that. How would you describe Grimsby to a friend or a family member? Like, you summarized it from your experience, but let's say if somebody was to visit you, how would you describe it? It's just a place that we love, and I do a fair amount of traveling around Canada just for my day-to-day work. And everybody I meet, when they say, "Where are you from?" I say, "I'm from Grimsby." It's not, "I'm from Niagara Falls," or "I'm from close to Toronto." I'm from Grimsby, and they always ask, "Well, where's that?" I lay it out where it is, and I said, it's a beautiful place to go. It's quiet, it's peaceful, it's friendly and welcoming. You've got a winery within a kilometer. You've got brewers, and you've got hiking. It's not the hustle and bustle of a major city, but you're close to everything you need. I can cross the border in 35 minutes. So the location is incredible. You're right on the QEW. You've got access to, like I said, recreational activities. There's whatever sport you want. You're right on the water, right? You really kind of get the best of kind of everything that Ontario has to offer. Anyone that I meet that has been through Grimsby loves it. Like they only say positive things. Would you say it's a great place to live?
Yeah, and it is. And I mean, we certainly aren't looking to go anywhere. I know we've had some, increase in crime and problems like most places around Canada, but I know that the town's doing everything they can to address it. So I know that they're on top of things, but it is a great place, and will continue. Landscapes change, and you kind of adapt as a town.
Yeah, thank you for that perspective. And when people come up here, I also would ask you to, at this stage anyway, if you could tell us your 2 favorite spots that you kind of are your favorite spots in Grimsby that you like to visit or want to visit, or you'd love to recommend. From
an eating, going to Casa Toscana is always a great place. The patio, I was just talking to Luca earlier asking how's the patio coming, because it's our favorite place to go for that Aperol Spritz on a hot day when the market's downtown, or going to the Judge, because it was the place where we've bought and sold 2 homes, and there's something special to us there. It feels like it's one of the hearts of Grimsby, but for us it was those places downtown, and then the waterfall that's tucked away that you wouldn't even know unless you know.
Thank you for that. Who would like to go next? It's a bit of a walk, but yeah, what makes it feel special to you? Or if you have any questions at this stage already, feel free, just come up.
Yeah, I'm John Allen, a Grimsby resident for the last 58 years, I guess. An immigrant from Beamsville. And I've...
Far away.
So far away, yeah. I do have I never thought of it until just now, but I do have a passion for Grimsby Beach. I've done a Grimsby Beach presentation called Then and Now that I put together years ago, and I presented that about 40 different times, and that's it's a real attraction that in the summertime, on a holiday weekend, you can't move down there. It's so darn busy with people. But parking is a huge problem. If we could provide parking somewhere for the tourists, it's best you walk around and look up things closely anyway. And now that I just thought of it too, something that could really be improved is the beach at Grimsby Beach. Make it more accessible and have the town groom it. Trouble is, ever since they took the pier out, now it's pebbles, river rock, not sand. But I think somebody could engineer that correctly, or maybe replace the pier somehow. That would make Grimsby Beach much more popular. But I did send Michael something last night. I'm a bit of a dreamer, but years ago we were in BC and we spotted the Capilano Bridge, and I thought, boy, that would work good in Grimsby. You know, it would be longer and deeper, and the arch with maybe Grimsby written on it could be seen from the Queenie. I've checked that out before. As you drive by, you can see that area, and I think that would draw all the tourists that are headed to Niagara Falls, and they could take a side trip to Grimsby. And I think there's about 6 suspension bridges, footbridges in Ontario alone, let alone other provinces that. They certainly had the idea and followed through with it, and it brings the tourists in. Collingwood Blue Mountain is one of them. Thunder Bay has one. Sudbury has, I think, 2, Eagle Pass. But it's something that I thought would work good if they could fit in a zip line like Niagara Falls somehow too. But I dreamt big. I thought maybe a zip line from the point down to Coronation Park, but then what the hell? Why not go right to the pool, the pump house? But it would be a good ride. But no, there's and Grimsby has got a lot of good spirit. There's all the different community groups. The marketplace every Thursday. That's a great idea. The festival of the 40 that they do. Frontier Days is come and gone, but that could be brought back possibly. There's lots happening in Grimsby. It's got a lot to be desired for. It's a lot of reason not to move back to Beamsville. Yeah, that's about it, I think.
What types of visitors do you think Grimsby attracts sort of naturally? You're talking about, we can talk about the suspension bridge in a little bit more. This is maybe hypothetical, but as things are right now, what do you think are the natural visitors?
The lake somewhat, the proximity to the lake. And Grimsby has a real gem in that Grimsby Point that something could be done there to make it a little more accessible. And even the eastern part, the eastern side there up against Mountain Street, that could be a little better signage as to how to access it. The Bruce Trail runs up through there, but there's some interesting items up there. The old reservoir that a lot of people don't even know it exists in town, but it's up there. And, there's just a lot of neat things in town. I can't think of all of them at the top of my head right now, but there's a lot of good things in Grimsby, that's for sure. Good community spirit.
Yeah, we hear that a lot, and just through our consultations that, it's a great place to be. The community is great. And yeah, there's definitely lots of things to do potentially. Going back to your dream, the suspension bridge, what sort of tourism do you think that would attract? Like, is this something that's missing? Is it a, what? Tell
All
us
the
more.
people coming and going from Niagara Falls and the Queenie would look over to the south and they'd see the bridge and pull them into town too, maybe.
So you're alluding to the fact that there isn't an attraction that is noticeable or known to bring people in right now.
Not at the moment, no. As long as you don't count the crane at the Roxy Theater.
Okay, yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that. And yeah, we saw the pictures. It's very detailed. I certainly appreciate that email. Just to throw another one in the mix, what kinds of perceptions do you think outsiders have about Grimsby, and what would you like to change or emphasize? I think we're starting to cover a few things, right? So maybe there isn't an attraction that's known. Again, based on our preliminary scan, it's pretty clear that while there is a large number of potential attractions, there isn't something particular item that Grimsby is known for, so it's kind of hard to draw tourists in. So again, what do you think from your perspective as residents, as business owners, if there's any perception that you'd like to fight or address? Anything that comes to mind?
Hi, my name's Mary Louise Cerrone, and I've been a resident of Grimsby for close to 20 years. And one of the things that I enjoy about Grimsby is I'm a volunteer at GBF, and I think it's one of the greatest organizations. And we draw people in from Toronto because of thrifting, which everyone knows today is huge. And we have people who, in some cases, are on the highway, and for whatever happens on the highway, they get off and they end up at GBF, and they're surprised at what they see. The organization is celebrating 60 years this year, and it's an amazing organization. And being part of it, I'm very proud to be part of it, as I know there are some other people here who have been volunteers also. So I think it's like any town along the QEW, it's getting the people off the highway, just getting them to know it's here. Obviously, downtown is limited, growing the businesses, and I know it's difficult for businesses to grow in this economy and time, but offering people places to shop, I think is important.
Thank you for sharing that. So again, we're kind of covering the theme of it's just getting that initial kind of step into Grimsby, right? Getting off the highway, and maybe not only to visit the gateway, but, to go somewhere after that, right? Or even, skip the gateway altogether and just go directly to an attraction in Grimsby.
Could I ask one question? What happened to the gateway? Is there a information center there where it's manned? There used to be somebody there on a regular basis. Is there someone there now who gives information out to people who stop there?
Yeah, I believe there's information center there, yeah, for sure.
Is it a person who's there, like in a lot of places, or is it just brochures that you pick up?
There's a person, yeah.
There is, okay, I haven't been down.
There's actually both. There's a lot of brochures from various participants, but they also have a full-time person there as well, from 10 o'clock till about 8 o'clock at night.
Oh, okay. I haven't been down.
And then during the summer, they've got some summer students supported by the federal government. And there are usually about four students there for 4 months of the year. So it's
Well, I'm remiss because I'm not going to go down because I live in Grimsby, but it's good to know
But
that someone is
there's a lot of people
there.
from Grimsby that actually go to the gateway, not for tourism-related stuff, but for other things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Would you see value in Gateway promoting businesses in Grimsby? Easy question, probably.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Very important to note that the Gateway has about 3.5 million people going through there a year. Whether they stop for Tim Hortons, the washroom, they usually go into that building, buses, families, grab a sub, and usually go by the tourism booth there and pick up a brochure or two.
I wonder, is there any way that they can gauge how many people actually stop and pick up the brochures and actually come into the town? Is there any quantitative
That's a good question.
numbers?
They have done some quantitative analysis in terms of the number of brochures that were received. You know, there's a brochure, a particular brochure that identifies all the wineries in Niagara region.
Yes.
Well, they go through about 200,000 of those brochures a year. So if that's an indication of how many people pick up the brochure and actually visit the center, that's a pretty good indication.
Definitely.
Yeah.
The visitors that you do get, what do they say? How do they get off the highway? Like, what's their journey like? Clearly, that happens. So how does that work?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
The visitors that you do get, right?
Into where I'm volunteering?
Yeah.
A lot of them have come because they're thrifting. That's what they're looking for. That's why they're here. We also will promote other people in the area, like if it's Smithville, because there is a thrift store there, or Beamsville, or wherever else, because we believe in collaboration of everyone. And the more people you can get to come thrifting for the day, they're looking to do a day of different places. We do get a lot of people from Toronto, which is surprising to us. They've heard, there's been a lot of mouth, people, word of mouth. So that is always good. We've had people who were on their way to Niagara Falls and just got off and were surprised. My thought is like almost, and I'm obviously promoting GBF because I believe in it, and it's almost like an anchor downtown, I believe, because it's one of the biggest stores, square footage in the downtown area. So it's almost like an anchor store. So promoting what we do and what we offer, it brings people. And then we do have people who stop and they say, well, where can I go for something to eat? What else can I see? So we're almost, tourism directors too, because we're directing them and hoping that they'll stay. I know years ago I went to a tourism meeting in Niagara Falls, and, it was the idea of figuring out how long they stay, that idea of how long do they stay, where else do they go, what else do they see, which is obviously tourism in itself. So that's...
Yeah, and two questions for you. So do you notice that people also come back, so after they've been once, you maybe have repeat visitors?
Yes.
And another question maybe to build on that is, what do you, when you say you kind of promote other businesses, what do you recommend?
Well, I will recommend, restaurants, if it's Teddy's or the Judge and Jester or Casa, if it's open. We're sending people wherever we can think, so having their paraphernalia, their information is always helpful too. For, some of the volunteers, we don't mind helping others, because if they come, they're looking for an experience. It's all about an experience too. So
that's great. Thanks for sharing that. There's a few other questions on the board there. Does anyone feel like they want to contribute at this stage? There's plenty more opportunities. Please come ahead.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dennis D'Alessandro. I have been a resident of Grimsby for the past 52 years, and on June 12th, 2002, I submitted a letter to the Hamilton Spectator regarding the Grimsby waterfront, which was rapidly diminishing. That letter was published, and a committee was formed. Carol Mazer was part of it, Peter Bennett, my wife Jenny, and the interest at that time was on a waterfront trail, about a 3-kilometer trail from the water treatment plant all the way through to Kelson Avenue. As time evolved, our committee held 4 public meetings. They were extremely well attended. There were numerous questions. We brought in guest speakers. All of them were experts on waterfronts. We worked very, very closely with the Waterfront Regeneration Trust, which was started by David Grimsby, the perfect little mayor of Toronto, as you might recall. And we had a tremendous amount of interest. The who's who of Grimsby signed their support sheets, which number over 2,000 people. We did that in one summer. We also signed up 200 businesses, all of them from Grimsby. All had one objective in mind: save our waterfront. Now, as time went on, we began to see that Grimsby was changing tremendously, and there was so much stress put upon many areas of Grimsby. The quiet little town was changing rapidly. The orchards were disappearing. The valuable land between the escarpment and the lake was practically gone. And I was so concerned, I put everything down in a 160-page report. That report is in the Grimsby reference section. It's also part of the Grimsby Historical Archives. I would very, very much encourage you to read that report because it talks about many, many areas, including the history of Grimsby. It also brings in the stresses which we as a town must face. It's a very, very valuable document. I encourage you to get a hold of it. Now, with the development occurring at a blinding rate, and we are now at a critical point in Grimsby, I think it's more than ever time to take a look at the waterfront because it is quite literally, folks, our last gasp. If we lose the waterfront, we become just another Toronto. We don't have anything to distinguish ourselves with. And what I did in this regard was to meet with MPP Sam Oosteroff on March 21st. We had a very, very frank, open meeting. Minutes were kept. I set the agenda. And Mr. Oosteroff said he would be delighted if he was invited to come and speak to the Grimsby Town Council. I hope this would be an open meeting. And Sam said he would listen, he would be involved, but he said there is a protocol here. You have to go through certain stages, which I quite understand. So my concern now is not so much with the waterfront trail, which is vital, of course, but that takes into consideration only a few people. I'm concerned with the waterfront park. 90-acre park is what I am driven, and that can be achieved. I have set out a very elaborate, detailed plan, what it would involve. I have visited numerous waterfronts across Ontario. Waterfronts are a magnet for tourism. If it's done right, folks, Grimsby would be put on the map. I'm going to tell you a little story. I was on the 401. I stopped off for coffee in a place called Coburg. It's Tim Hortons. And there was a woman in front of me, and she was dressed a little different. She had a long flowing gown, bright colors. I got talking to her. And I said, where are you from? She says, I'm from, I believe it was Brazil. I'm not positive, but it doesn't matter. She said, I'm from Brazil, I guess. And she says, I said, what are you doing here? She says, I'm going to Coburg. And I said, I never heard of Coburg. She said, I said to her, what's in Coburg? And she looked at me and she was rather astonished. And she said, why, the waterfront, of course. Okay, now I have been all around. I've been up to Manitoulin Island. I've been to many, many waterfronts. I love Gananoque. And when I go there, I like Goderich, okay, and I learn, and I take pictures, numerous pictures. And I say to myself, Grimsby's got something right in front of it, and it can't see it. You've got a wonderful Lake Ontario here. It's unused. You've got 90 acres sitting there doing nothing. For crying out loud, I've given you a vision. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of creativity. It takes a lot of tenacity, but you can get this done. I do not want to see somebody come up here and say, oh, it can't be done. We can't do this. I don't buy that, folks. We have spent millions and millions of dollars in Ontario on a variety of things, including that science center. And I'll say now, what I want to see happen is for that 90 acres owned by Rogers Communications property, I want to see that purchased by the province of Ontario. I want to see it go to the region for a nominal sum, and the region turn it over to the town, and the town develop a waterfront park. I have given the town everything. It's a blueprint. It is detailed. Look at it. It can be done. Folks, you can have an arts festival. You can do little things to bring in 100 people here, 200 people there. If you put that waterfront park, you make that into existence, they will come. I guarantee they will come there. People love open spaces. Take a look at Gage Park. Take a look at Confederation Park. They call it Beach now. Don't even call it that. Look at Bayfront Park, right across Ontario. Look at Newmarket. Take a look. Go to the internet. Click on Newmarket and see what they have done. This could be us. So I can see, I have a vision here, and I know that vision can be fulfilled. But it's going to take a champion. I'm getting old, folks. I've been at this for 23 years. I need somebody to stand up, to take control. Do what Jenny and I have done, okay? We put a lot of money into this. A lot of the information that you've got, we didn't get anything for that. We did this. We didn't ask for help because we feel so passionate about Grimsby. But Grimsby's changing, guys. Like you asked me what I like about Grimsby. I like the open spaces. I like the fact we've got a waterfront, even though it's sitting there and it's full of, well, I won't say, but it's open, okay? There's nothing there. We can change that, but we need somebody. We need a few people. We need a committee that says, okay, we're going to do this stage by stage by stage and commit to it. And don't get discouraged. I could have thrown in the towel years ago. I got tired, and I kept coming back to it because I said, you know what? I probably won't be here when this thing is built, but it's important to leave something for the community. Somebody's got to say there was a time when we could have done something. We had an opportunity, and we let it slip through our hands. So this is what I'm about. I've lived here many years. I'm very proud of Grimsby. I visit a lot of folks at senior residences. I try and make a contribution where I can. But I'm an activist. And if I see something, and to me it's obvious, I get involved. And this is something that I've been involved with for 23 years. So please, the mayor, the town planner, the 8 councilors, do something. The people behind Grimsby will be with you. This is what they want. And keep them abreast of what you're doing. Don't keep us in the dark. Let us know what's happening at every stage. People will love you for it.
Thank you very much, Dennis and Jenny. We actually have a copy of the report that was submitted, and we'll look up the full version. I believe it's at 160 pages in the archives, so
Okay.
We'll make sure to consider
By the
that.
way, the mayor has that 160 pages too. So there's other people that do have it, and it's in there, I believe.
It's in this package.
Yeah, you don't have to go to the library to get it or the Grimsby archives. They have it. They can show it to you. Okay, thank you, folks.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Well, I think we have, oh, go ahead.
Hi, folks. I wanted to give other people a chance to speak. My name is Nick DeFlavio. I'm a counselor for Ward 4 here in Grimsby. Some feedback on some of your questions. I guess if the goal, my first question is, what is our goal? Because if the goal is tourism as an economic driver, then we have to look at somebody mentioned, I don't know if it was Dennis or sorry, ma'am, I don't know your name. Mary Louise talked about keeping people in a place. You know, Niagara Falls, as much as I hate casinos, and I think that they are a drain on society, before the casino, Niagara Falls had a hard time keeping people there. And one of the things that the casino did was it made people stay overnight rather than day trips. And so I think that if we're talking about an economic driver, we need to talk about how we get people to not just visit Grimsby, but visit Grimsby and stop and stay overnight and those types of things. So, and also the next question that brings to mind is, how much of that do we want? Because I know that, for example, like Mark's here from Grimsby Beach, and people in Grimsby Beach, as much as they don't hate tourism, also don't want a whole heck of a lot more buses and people walking through their neighborhood. You know, they're proud of their neighborhood, they're proud of the beauty of their neighborhood, but I don't know that they want to see buses driving through that neighborhood. And so what's good for Grimsby as a whole might contrast what individuals want to see in Grimsby. You asked about favorite spots, and Dennis talked about the waterfront. That's definitely one of my favorites, from Casablanca Beach to the Bigger Lagoon, which is, a beautiful natural heritage feature, and Beamer Conservation Area. So trails. So Beamer Conservation Area to the pump house along the 40 Mile Creek is another one of my favorites. I think about the things that I did with my kids that were long activities, and from Wolverton Road to 50 Road is another long piece of the Bruce Trail, which has always been one of my favorites. So for me, it's trails. I'm not going to pick one business that's my favorite, because Luca will kill me. But it's not, I know that this is about driving business and about driving the economy, but when it comes to places, if you want people to come here, I think we got to talk about our natural heritage, and that means the lake and the escarpment. One of the things that's always come to mind when it came to tourism for me as a parent who's been to a lot of places with my kids who were participating in sports was the tourism that comes with sports travel. I've been all over Ontario and, Ohio and New York and all these other places because my kids play basketball and they swim competitively. And other parents go places because of karate and because of hockey and because of all these other things. And I think if we could find a way to leverage that, the people who are coming here, I know I'm part of the Grimsby Basketball Association, and we have 8 teams coming to Grimsby every other weekend to participate in Ontario Basketball Association. They're coming from all over the province. They're staying in the hotels. They're eating at the local restaurants. Those are things. So I think of a time where I went to Stratford, and it's a few years ago. It's 5 or 6 years ago. So it's kind of dated. But Stratford, which is already known for its tourism, doesn't need to attract more people. Still, when we went there, gave a package to every parent that came to the tournament. And Tourism Stratford gave a package to every parent and said, here's local restaurants, here's local, places to visit, places to shop, all of these things. And it struck me that if a place that already has tourists, that already knows, the Shakespeare Festival is one that draws thousands and thousands of people a year. I go there, for it. So if they're doing it and they don't really need that, it's like dotting the I for them rather than what we're doing here, then we should look at something like that too. And it doesn't have to be a package. It doesn't have to be a flyer, because paper's kind of dated, but I think there are things that we can definitely do to enhance our tourism strategy. And the other thing I wanted to mention was our heritage, because I'm a member of the Heritage Committee. I have been for 20 years now. And, you know, our Heritage Committee just recently, for example, created Google Maps of different heritage sites in Grimsby. And so if there are people who are interested in heritage in Ontario, whether it's United Empire Loyalist Heritage, we have a United Empire Loyalist Google Map tour that you can do. If you're interested in all the other types of heritage, our members of our Heritage Committee, I don't want to take any credit for it because there's people that put a lot of work into it, but it's there now. It's on the town website. It's something that, and the reason why it came about was because I went to Port Huron and the movie It was filmed there. And I did an It walking tour of Port Huron where you could see where all the different things were filmed. There are people that are interested in these things, and those are a couple. So the two that came to mind were, or three, I guess, our natural heritage, our actual heritage, you know, built heritage, and the sports tourism. That I've got lots of other stuff, and I can email it to you, and I don't want to take up more time. I'm hoping this is just like a catalyst for discussion, but I wanted to come tonight because I didn't know if there was going to be an opportunity for council to have input, and so I wanted to be part of the discussion. I'm sorry if I'm taking over the conversation for other people, but I think it's an important discussion that we're having, because if we're having it, it needs to be done the right way. And those are some of the things that have always struck me as things that we could do that are, and some of it's kind of low-hanging fruit because people are already here. For, you know, we talked about the GBF. If people are coming for the GBF, then having a flyer at the GBF would be an easy thing to do at the entrance, the same way that we have stuff that we give out at the gateway. So anyway, that's enough for me. I've already talked too much.
That's great, and please don't apologize. So I think you bring up something really interesting, and this came up in some conversations we had today as well, is this idea of kind of low-hanging fruit, or in other ways, there is kind of tourism that isn't necessarily, you know, like flashy, like attractions-based tourism. There is, like you mentioned, sports tourism, and you already have a hockey ring, and so you can scale that with no kind of outside impact on its an intended use of that space. And you just scale that, you promote it, and that generates tourism. People have to stay somewhere, they have to eat somewhere, things like that, right? So that's sort of the low-hanging fruit, and that's part of the strategy. What we're thinking through as we're identifying assets in Grimsby is understanding how this scaling or promotion would work and how it would impact the community. So for example, the Painted Ladies, this is something that people organically already like and know about. And if you were to turn the knob on this and start promoting it, it's clearly something that could be a big driver, but it's going to have potentially an impact on that community, right? So that needs to be how this is done. It can't just be done without consultation, and it needs to be done in a proper way, in a sustainable way, right? So that's sort of, that's the not the low-hanging fruit option, but that it's the one where consultation needs to take place, and we're just aware that just driving tourism also has impact, both positive and potentially negative. But I really like that you brought us to this tourism that's, you know, isn't about a highlight attraction. It's also just kind of, there's certain things that already exist that could be scaled up. So I thought that's really good. Yeah, and for anyone here, if you'd like to provide more feedback in the cards, there's that little QR code.
Just as an addition to that, this weekend in Niagara region is the Ontario Basketball Association is hosting the U16 girls finals, the provincial finals. So there will be between 60 and 70 teams with 10 plus families on each team. So, you know, 600 families in the Niagara region for basketball this weekend. That's the kind of thing that you can't buy, and it doesn't have an impact on crime the same way that a casino does. It doesn't, there's a lot of positives with not a lot of negatives that come with that kind of tourism. So if we can work with our associations, whether it's baseball, soccer, basketball, hockey, these large associations that are running stuff out of our arena, out of our soccer fields. I think of last year, there was an organization that organized a Croatian soccer tournament up here on the mountain that brought teams in from all over North America. Things like that are things that bring people to town. People are spending money, and they're one-off events. So anything that we could do like that, and we have a community, a coordinator with our community services department now that can help facilitate that. So if we can build that into what we're already doing, I think it could be a huge win for the town of Grimsby. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, what I'd like to do is let's move on to our second topic. And we're touching on elements of this already, but I'll give you another set of questions to look at, maybe inspire you. So let me just find my footing here. So it's community benefits and economic opportunities, economic benefits as well. So tourism isn't just about how many visitors you get, it's about how those visitors can support your local economy and improve life for the people who live here. In this part of the discussion, we want to hear how tourism can serve Grimsby's residents, workers, and businesses. Let's think about how tourism can be built to benefit the entire community. Got a few questions up there. So what kinds of support would help local businesses and organizations participate in and benefit from a healthy tourism sector in Grimsby? How can we build a tourism economy that grows Grimsby's capacity without putting pressure on local infrastructure, businesses, or residents? And we started touching on some of these themes already just now. So local businesses, organizations, should be involved in shaping Grimsby's tourism strategy. Give you a few moments to soak this in, and then please feel free to come up.
Let me start by saying I have the privilege of working with, hang on just a minute. I have the privilege of working with Councillor DeFlavio on the Public Works Committee, and if I'd been here 30 seconds before I would have got ahead of him. My name's Mark Rady, the Mark that was referred to. I live in one of those painted ladies. Mine is the Piano House. If you see it, it's the corner of East and Temple Lane. And I just wanted to make sure that my voice would be heard here, and my neighbors, and Reg had invited me to participate anyhow. There was no way I was going to miss this. I've worked with a lot of people in this room, hi Terry, and a few others. I spent time on heritage, because I lived in a heritage area. I wanted to understand, A, how it works and what the rules were. And I was horrified because I hadn't done my homework before I moved in to find out that this was a tourism hotspot. I'm an IT executive, so if I Google Grimsby Beach, it never ceases to amaze me how many returns and videos and how many times I've seen my house on the internet. And I have kids, grandkids in the UK who go to school and say, this is Papa's house, this is where he lives. So we're legendary on both sides of the ocean. Nick touched on it, and it's a good point. We love tourists. We're working on Public Works to make sure my voice is heard about things like our master transportation plan that's underway. Okay, so we're a neighborhood with one sidewalk, Park Road North. We figured 3 years ago, Bob Friesen and I did a presentation to our Ward 1 councillors, our recreation director, and our Public Works director, and the mayor. And they were kind enough to give us an hour to give them a report card on the Grimsby Beach land use study, and we use that to our advantage. And so what are the key concerns down there? We can't stop the tourists from coming, so we just have to manage them as effectively as we can, right, John? John is part of the problem. He does tours, he brings people down, It's not bad enough they drift in, John brings them in. And so consultation is a word I heard Nick use a few times, and it's one that I try and reinforce. So I'm a Facebook administrator. I run the Facebook page. We have our own page for the Grimsby Beach residents. It's a closed page. It's not the most exciting page. Is your Kojiko out? Did you see the water down? It's one of those pages. And every now and then all hell breaks loose. I've worked closely with Sarah Sweeney and the Recreation Department to discuss and consult with residents and acted as a liaison to these residents to bring the town's perspective and not the rumor mill's perspective. What you get from that, however, is feedback, right? And Sarah says to me every now and then, Mark, I'm sorry to put you in this position. And I said, you're a liar, you're manipulating me and making you the person that is taking the bullets. So we have a friendly relationship. We want people to slow down. Right, that's key. We have no sidewalks, and the speed limit in Grimsby Beach is 50 kilometers an hour. And the residents do 60 to 65, right? They're the worst offenders. But Nick also he touched on a lot of stuff. So you are listening to me. I'm surprised, but I'm impressed. He talked about the fact that you get a lot of car traffic. We've had 2 buses hung up in the circle. Anybody who's been to the auditorium circle looks and thinks, who in their right mind would take a bus in there? And there's 2 idiots in Ontario who did. And then we had to bring in tow trucks. So it's not bad enough we had to listen to all this. They emptied the bus out, so they're all over our front lawns. And we had to listen to tow trucks beep, beep, beep for an hour while they try to get these buses out. So we're working with the Public Works Committee to implement a no bus strategy, no heavy equipment unless somebody's moving in. And so far it's working. The consultation thing, there's bumps in the road, and we've had a few hot topics in the last few weeks. But we're saying to the town, you bring in anywhere between 8,000 to 10,000 visitors come to Grimsby Beach every year. And they walk up the middle of the road. And we have a 50-kilometer-an-hour zone here. We want them to stay too, but we don't want them to be dead on the road. All right? And so consultation, we clean the beach every year ourselves. We have people in the community that organize this. We have a long table lunch, it's called. You start with 1 table and you keep adding tables in the park until we have enough tables for people. Last year we had over 40, and it's all our neighbors. So it's a pretty united community. And I think, again, to quote Nick, we're just looking for a little respect, a little cooperation with the town. I said to Reg, you can't ignore Grimsby Beach when you talk about tourism. The key is for the town of Grimsby is keeping them here. Where do they go next, right? We have one restaurant that shall be remain nameless, in my book anyways, down on Lake Street. You can do the math. And we have a pizza joint, A lot of people have joked and said you should just open up a hot dog stand and you're going to be a millionaire. We have no food, so we can't keep them down there. Not that we want them because they don't always pick up the garbage, but the local business owners down there are putting out extra garbage cans to keep the place clean. So it's not a one thing. We don't expect the town to do all this. We roll up our sleeves and we get involved. We've raised $10,000 to plant trees, right? We're working with Recreation to find out where exactly to plant those trees. So we're trying to make the place look nice. And the colors, you either love them or you hate them, right? And every now on Facebook, I have to spank the children and tell them to settle down now, okay? Everybody has their things. So I appreciate the fact that you guys are even doing this and giving us an opportunity. And I know Reg will attest to it, and I know Nick will too. I'm a collaborator, not a blamer. You get a lot more done that way. And we want to be involved in this decision-making process, and we're engaged. I think they'll also tell you we're engaged. When we're doing a good job here at City Hall, we come up and tell you, and when you're not, we tell you that too. Okay, so I won't take any longer than that. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I do have a slight follow-up, if you don't mind. So, somebody who lives in one of the Painted Ladies, which is great and fascinating. What do you see the role of Grimsby Beach or the Painted Ladies in the broader context of Grimsby tourism? Like, what is the role?
It is the easiest place to get to. It's the easiest place to get to after Casablanca. There's been a lot of work done in Casablanca, I know. There's more coming on Public Works. We're talking about all the expansion that has to happen. It has to happen at the Queen Eagle on one side, buildings on the other. The second place that's easy to get off is Bartlett. And you turn and you go north on Bartlett 1 block and you're in Grimsby Beach. You have to go 2 more blocks in to see a sign that says you're in Grimsby Beach. Maybe move the sign. And that's where we want the speed to drop to 40. And that's where we want to see some calming. We have open ditches on Bartlett, so there's nothing they can do other than use taxpayers' dollars to put in sidewalks. And I mean, okay, fine. We'll work with Brandon and his company. But it's so easy to get to us. It's the easiest thing for people to do, and they just wheel off. And then you know who the tourists are because they're doing the head bobble, right? They're doing this. And so some of them are very, very 10, 15 kilometers is fabulous. Personally, I'd love to see 25, not even 40. But there'd be an argument in the Facebook page about that, so I could do a poll if it would help the town. But we bring it in, I know. And Nick alluded to the fact that I'm also a hiker. I have my dog, I love to hike. So we go up to the falls, Beamers, So think about it. You come off here, you can go to Grimsby Beach on this side, you go to Beamer on the other side, and you're downtown. How do you keep them downtown now? Luca. between his food and his singing, he's, so it's, that's what our role is. We know we can't avoid this. We're the no good deed unpunished. That's us. We've done a great job of marketing, and now we're suffering for it. But, right, John? And
we'll just say that local residents, they take pride in being that kind of the pull into Grimsby. Like, how would you, it could be annoying, could be difficult, but is there an underlying element of this is good for the community?
We realize it is a good draw for the community, and again, I'm going to go back to how do you keep them here, because there's really nothing to do in Grimsby. So you do your walk, it takes an hour, if you take your time, maybe 2 hours, right? Then where do you go? That's the hook that we're missing here, the link between, you're going to come and see the painted ladies, ... you should go here or there, or we'll give you a discount coupon or what have you. It's our homes. There's a lot of people, and honestly, you'd be amazed how many people have walked right into my house because it's a piano house. They can see my grand piano from the front when they can hear me playing. They think it's a flippin' museum, and we're just actors. We just live there. I'm not kidding you. That's a reality. So you have to have a good sense of humor to live in Grimsby Beach. You did that one time, yeah. That one time you did it. No, we take pride in our homes. That's a lot of work to keep those places painted and maintained. And Terry knows we've done a lot of work together on heritage and community over the years. It takes a lot of work to do what we do, but we do it because we're all, I think, half crazy and we love it, Because when you do that, I've talked to musicians from all over the world. It's amazing because they see that piano, they get it. You're clearly a musician. No, I'm an IT guy. What? Oh, no, I'm a musician. Okay. And you have conversations, and we get to educate, and they ask us, what is going on around here? Where else they ask us. So 8,000 people a year ask us, where should I eat and where should I go? Think about that link, right? And we're happy to have them leave. We are. It's nice to see you. Don't stay too long. Here's your coat. Get out. It's just the respect thing, and there's nothing anybody can do about that, except have extra garbage bins, and Sarah does that in the summertime, and you see weird sides of people when you're in a situation like that. But yeah, if we can get them out of there and send them to somebody else to make money, we're happy to do that, honestly.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for sharing. Last one. One more. So any consensus or any discussion in the community about, you're saying there's that next step of, you're kind of telling them where to go, but in terms of like an organized effort, what would be that kind of instrument for here is where you go next?
So the big issue for us is parking. I think Winston Road is number one enforcement, and we're number two, right? And we know that. Partly because it's so dangerous, because the streets, remember, this is horse and buggy territory, so these streets are not wide enough for 2 cars. The main drag in and out is wide enough for 2 cars, so they can get a fire truck or an ambulance in. All the rest of the streets were horse and buggy, so they're kind of 3/4, right, to 1. And so when you, oh, geez, I just lost my train of thought. Shit. Question again, sorry.
You were talking about parking.
Yeah, parking's a real issue for us. We enjoy the support of the town to get them away from us. Go over to the school or go over to the daycare. And I know there's contracts, and I know school boards don't like people parking there, but they got a better chance of not getting hurt over there. We have our own residence page, which we don't publicize, but we also have a public page on Facebook, called Grimsby Beach. How original is that? And we also own our own domain, grimsbybeach.ca. We haven't done anything with it right now, but we've got that domain parked, and we own it, and we're not giving it up. And our vision of the grimsbybeach.ca page is to complement the town as we can, to make sure that we're given the same information. But being an IT guy, and I've got an IT designer who lives across the street from me, we're looking at QR codes on people's driveways if they want to participate. You come up with a QR code, takes you to the Grimsby Beach page. You actually see the history of the house. And, we said to people, we don't want to see the interior of your house because you're advertising now to the goons, right? But pictures of the house, maybe you've done work. Maybe the house has been upgraded. John, I have John's DVD collection of 20,000, 10,000, 5,000. John has provided to me, as the owner of the Grimsby Beach site, here's 5,000 pictures of the history of this stuff. He shows me pictures of my house as it was being built and as the additions went on. And it's kind of cool, right? You're living at a piece of history that was built in 1901, and you see all these additions. So we're proud of that. So our vision is to mix the heritage part of it with the high-tech stuff of why wouldn't you use a QR code and let somebody see, where to park, QR code, da-da-da-da. Everybody's got a phone in their hand. Put the thing to use, right? Put it to use. And QR codes, you could generate those in your printer for 4 cents. So, you're going to use aluminum ones, and again, it's voluntary. Some people do not want to be bothered. They don't want to see anybody near their house. They don't want to talk to other people. Other people, they'd spend half the day talking, about the history. So they're all history buffs.
So there is willingness, but it needs to be sort of like an option, and it's, yeah, got it. Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Luca Vitali. I own a business downtown. I hear favorite business of a lot of people here tonight, so good. And I came to Grimsby directly from Italy in 2008. So it's about 17 years I live here. Coming from a very small village in Tuscany. Grimsby was the place where I landed for work. I'm a winemaker in trade, so I was hired by a big company who owns different wineries in Niagara. And I was working in one of the Grimsby wineries, so that's why I landed in Grimsby. To say that Grimsby is already a big town for me because my village in Tuscany is about 2,000 people. So Grimsby, we're about 30,000. But still, the area with the escarpment, with the mountain, how they call it over here, we call it a little hill, remind me a little bit of home. So I could never live in a town. So it was okay for me to live in Grimsby, and I started to love Grimsby. I've been welcomed by the community in a very well way. I love this community, very friendly by nature. And it's so true, even if, some things are changing right now, but I remember still that when you cross the road and you're not crossing the road at the intersection, the car used to stop. Now they don't stop anymore. I mean, out of 10 cars, there are only 2 stop. But anyway, the sense of community that we have in this town is incredible. And it reminds me, when I became finally Canadian citizen in 2020, I'm proud to call this my second home. Actually, my first home right now because I'm living more here than back home. Anyway, there's a lot of things in Grimsby. I was waiting to come and talk because I wanted to see what the other topics were, and I think I can fit in this one because owning a business fits right into it. And I'm looking specifically to the second point over there. How can we build a tourism economy that grows Grimsby capacity without putting pressure on local infrastructure, businesses, and residents? So we did hear from Mark that tourism is putting a pressure on residents. And I do understand that, especially when you want your privacy of your home. You're sitting on your porch and you can't, So, but I guess that's the price for living in the painted ladies, right? So, pressure on businesses. I don't think there's a pressure on businesses. I don't think there's a single business that wouldn't benefit from tourism, especially in my kind of businesses, which, I own a restaurant, a store. And so the problem is the infrastructure, that word over there. We cannot build a tourism economy without developing infrastructure. If I think, I can think of the very small thing, like, for example, transportation, right? We don't have public transportation. Not only we don't have public transportation, we don't even have a taxi company. Like, this is a 30,000 people city. We don't have taxi. The only taxi company that you see in town is coming from Hamilton, and, sometimes St. Catharines, you call them, and if you're lucky, they'll get here in 2 hours. Uber service, starting but very, very little. So it blows my mind that nobody in town had thought about creating a taxi company, like having 3 or 4 taxis. They would make a fortune. Imagine, so even people like going to eat out and wanted to drink a bottle of wine, and and they don't want to drive home, of course, because they can't drive home, and so it's kind of hard. And that's part of the problem, I think. Transportation is very, very important, and the other one is hotels, because honestly, we have 2 hotels in town, but not enough. So we can't think about bringing tourism if we don't know where to actually allocate them, where to get them to stay for the night. And mostly our hotels are used by travelers that they stop overnight, because they're driving from and to the States mainly, because when you're driving from Niagara Falls to Toronto, you go home. But that's the big difference that we have also with other places like Niagara on the Lake, Niagara Falls, of course. There's a lot of hotels over there. Excuse me. So we have a lot of nice things in Grimsby that we can actually develop. Like, for example, I'm thinking about the market. When I think about tourism, I think mostly also in the summer. I would love to have people here even in the winter, but mostly the people here are coming in the summertime. And when I see that beautiful market downtown in front of my actually restaurant and store, and going on for about 12 to 14 weeks in the summertime, it makes me go back to home, thinking about back in Tuscany, where we actually had those kind of nice, quiet area where you see the families walking, everybody walking with their dogs, people shopping, people talking, people getting together. So it's lovely, and like thinking about also all the things that have been happening on Main Street lately in the last 4 months. That could be a great idea. I always advocated for that, like, why don't we actually close Main Street from Ontario to Christie and make it pedestrian? And that would be bringing a lot of people downtown Grimsby, I'm telling you. Now, I know that some of the residents are not happy about it. Some of the businesses, I don't understand why, would not be happy about it. It would increase tremendously traffic into the shopping area. It will be a place where the families go every week, and not only on Thursday in the summertime for the market. And it would be safer for our shops, our jewelry, and our banks, right? And it can be done because, like, for example, in my city we have a pedestrian area, and it's permanent, night and day. There is only 2 hours in the morning when the trucks are allowed to come for deliveries. They have these bollards that are actually going down, and all the safety vehicles, like police, ambulance, and fire trucks, they have remote controls. So just in case they have to come in for an emergency, they can open them, and that would be something. That would be something I would think about, and especially I think that now it's exactly the time of doing it, because I know that our beautiful Main Street is going to be closed for a long time. So we're getting the market now. So already people are going to get used to get the road is closed for the market, and we're getting the festival as well, and immediately, basically, I don't know the date yet, but immediately after the summer, the main water work is going to start on Main Street. So our Main Street is going to be closed for about a year at least. So this is the perfect time to get everybody on board, and this is the perfect time to get everybody used to a permanent closure of Main Street. I know it's a regional road, so there has to be some kind of talks with the region. But I remember talking to Mayor Jeff. We could try to get Main Street for the town, and give them Elm Street that connects it back to Main Street, where your house was, Ben, your old house, right there. So, kind of a continuation of Elm Street, of Main Street on that side. I remember that when I was part of the DIA for over 10 years, and I remember the very first time that I was on the DIA, and Tony Quick was my chair at that time. We were thinking about making a nice roundabout over there where Ontario Street and Elm meet. And I think there was in the plan also even down to demolish the post office and get Ontario Street to go straight over there to Elm and continue over there. And so that we could close Ontario Street and Main Street between Ontario and Christie. So who should we get involved in shaping Grimsby tourism strategy? Local businesses? It's a good idea, but not everybody thinks like I think. Organizations? Yes, absolutely. It's a good idea. The DIA could be one of it. Everybody has to be on board. I think that after what happens on Main Street even 10 days ago, they're going to be happy more to listen to my idea of closing Main Street. I mean, and everybody, if I look at the first point, like what kind of support would help local businesses and organizations participate and benefit from a healthy tourism sector in Grimsby, every kind of business will absolutely benefit from tourism in Grimsby. What kind of support? You talked about support. You talked about marketing, like really pointed marketing on. We have the resources. I have to say that I never knew about the waterfront. That's an incredible idea, and I don't know why it hasn't been done yet. Honestly, I'm glad that I came tonight because it was the first time I heard about it. Waterfront bring a lot of people. Look at Burlington, right? So, and there's a lot of things. Like if we build a waterfront, if there is a land over there to build a waterfront, why we can even build like a kind of a open air concert arena and make concert and I make a festival, like a jazz festival. I'm talking as a musician now, Mark. Or or opera. You don't know. Like immediately, like imagine that beautiful. Look at the lake, and then those nights that you see the whole skyline of Toronto, Mississauga over there. It's going to be just beautiful. There's going to be a lot of ideas. So we can take some cars away from the painted ladies, and Mark will have dinner safe, right? Also, another thing about thinking about the painted ladies, you know when you go in those little towns where there's something to visit and they have the little train that they bring tourists around, okay? No, wait a minute, listen to me, Mark, listen.
You wouldn't believe it, but I had the same idea this morning.
No, wait. Cars not allowed. Cars not allowed, and just, certain times of the day where the little train passes and shows, this is Mark's house, this is John's house, like that's it. And so that you have privacy at a certain time of the night and at a certain time of the day, right? Then nobody's coming in because the road is closed and is open only for residents. Right? So, because, we have to respect, they have to respect your privacy.
So, Luca, let me probe you on something. So, first of all, thank you for sharing that perspective. And from your perspective as a business owner, it's clear that you've got kind of a thriving business, it's a popular business, and tourism is the sort of engine where, like, rising tide should lift all boats, so all businesses. And you said, as a business owner, there really shouldn't be any kind of downsides. At the same time, you mentioned that there are some businesses that maybe don't necessarily adapt well to the potential customers, right? They don't see opportunity the same way that you see opportunity. So for those businesses, given, let's say, the rise in the tide is coming, what support do they need to take advantage of that opportunity?
I think they just have, it's just a mindset, and it has to change. There are some businesses on downtown that they treat their business, and it's their business, so they can do whatever they want. But for me, 9 to 5, close. That's it, and not open in the weekends. And it blows my mind where you have 2,500 people walking downtown on a Thursday after 5 o'clock because there's the market, and half of the businesses are closed. What kind? I'm happy for you that you're rich and you're probably in a good shape, but who closes his business when you have so many people in front of you walking that they can come in at any time, an opportunity? And being in a DIA, I've been fighting a lot with this. You don't know how hard it is to change their minds. Like we have a couple of times a year, we have this ladies' night, which is incredible. And all the ladies from Grimsby are coming down and hopping in from one store to the other one, the open one. Because even in that occasion, there's a lot of stores which are closed, right? And on Sundays, I think it's 3 of us open on Main Street. Like, imagine, Sunday. I give you an idea, as I do as a little example. A week ago, we had this egg hunt downtown Grimsby organized by the DIA. So every participating business, and of course we were one of it, they only had to give chocolate eggs to the kids coming to it. So the success was absolutely outstanding. I never saw so many kids walking downtown Grimsby with the parents and coming in the shop. Of course, not everybody was buying things, but that's not why we want them to come. We want them to come inside the store so they can see that, oh, there's a store here. I never knew that. So I'll come back when my kid is sleeping. I'll come for a glass of wine or to buy a bottle of wine, right? So it was so many people. It was incredible. And I was thinking, okay, this is what we can have on a Sunday here. Imagine, let's close it. Let's put a nice big fountain in the middle. Let's have buskers. let's have, clowns, whatever, let's bring the families downtown. The patios are open, and, so it's just, it's not easy. It's not easy to change the mind of some people, unfortunately. So, but we cannot be held hostages from this kind of people. We need to go ahead and do something for our city, even if there are people that don't want it, Sometimes I hear, the market is actually a disgrace because it takes me 5 more minutes to go home when I'm crossing the town. I says, yeah, 5 more minutes. Imagine those people who are going to work in Toronto, and they're 2 hours and a half in a car to get home. Yes, 2.5 going and 2.5 coming back. That's 5, Reg. Yeah, exactly, right? So, but people want to pass from downtown, and I don't know why they want to pass from downtown. Honestly, there's so many roads. So, again, there's going to be, of course, deviations now put in place for the main water work. And so people, for 1 year, will have to take those deviations. So this is a perfect time, and I am telling you, Nick, and you, Reg, this is the perfect time to kind of do something like that, because after 1 year, nobody will remember that one day Main Street was open to traffic, And, people tend to forget. So now it's perfect, and they will see the benefits of it, honestly.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Did you mention that at the public information?
Yes, I mention it every time I can.
For the public works one, though.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to move on to topic number 3 at this time. So, tourism gaps and challenges. Also just kind of in keeping with the time, we've only got about half an hour to spend together here today left. And we've got 2 more topics. Honestly, one of them, the last one, I think we've covered in pretty good detail. So we can spend a good amount of time here if you'd like. So tourism gaps and challenges. We'll shift gears and talk about what's not working, the barriers, frustrations, or things that are missing when it comes to tourism in Grimsby. Maybe you've seen visitors get confused, or maybe you've struggled to promote something yourself. This is your chance to be honest about the cracks in the system so we can better understand what needs fixing or building. I've got a few questions for you here. So what do visitors struggle with when they come to Grimsby? What, if anything, frustrates you when navigating Grimsby, either as a resident or when trying to help visitors enjoy the town? Are there events, attractions, or services that you feel aren't well known or things that are hard to find or promote? The questions are kind of thought starters, but barriers is what we want to talk about.
Ben Perkis again. As a resident kind of watching this and being here for quite a while, it seems every year there's new organizations of wineries that are doing something, or there's a new festival, a new grouping, and it's actually really difficult, one, to keep track of them, because everyone creates their own association. It's Benchlands Winery this year, and it's something else next year. And so it's difficult to even know what's going on. I know we've talked earlier that we're good at doing things, but not actually telling anybody it's happening. And I know that, always costs money. Marketing always costs money, no matter what you do. However, you kind of need to spend money to make money. And if you want people to know what's happening, we do need to promote that better. But I think there's got to be broader conversations with independent businesses and how the town can maybe support them. I don't know how you overcome it, because not every business gets along, as what Luca was saying. And when you look at wineries and brewers, you can really see cliques that sort of form between certain wineries of one caliber, what they think they're might be on a different level than others. So I feel like there's a struggle between collaboration, and maybe it's just a matter of getting everybody in the same room and saying, we want to help everybody, so let's do this and let's promote it, and getting Gateway involved a bit more.
How would you envision the Gateway involvement? Like, what comes to mind?
Well, I love what they've done. They did a renovation recently, but you wouldn't know unless you walk into it. I love the idea of we've got access to buying wine kind of everywhere now. Why not Gateway? Why not have the best options? Look, Luca's got a wine shop that sells amazing Italian wine, but that's the only spot that sells it. There's all of these products that are made locally in people's homes, right? And they're trying to find a way to showcase them or sell them in other ways. Well, maybe the Gateway is an opportunity to do that. It's a little disappointing when I go through downtown and instead of seeing great little shops to bring people walking, you get budget Dollarama stores or other shops that aren't conducive to spending the day walking through and purchasing products. I know when we go traveling, we love to walk through a small downtown with all these great little home shops and stores to spend the whole day. If you're in and out in a store in 5 minutes, you're not going to stay here, really.
Thank you.
Points 1 and 2. When visitors come to see me, the first thing I tell them, do not go over 40 kilometers an hour. I don't care where you are in Grimsby, don't take the chance. These areas change, and what is 40 one month might be not 40 kilometers the next month, so I tell them, and it's too bad because it's a negative. But it's very important that they don't go into town here and come out with an $80 minimum fine. So I stress that. The other thing is, for the size of the town, we probably have more stoplights than any comparable town in Canada. Now, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but when it comes to traffic flow, I can't seem to get through this town anymore. I know the South Service Road is used, it's probably underused. But I take that all the time now. I avoid going through downtown Grimsby. It's so frustrating trying to get from one point to the other, and I've given up on it. And of course, throw in that 40 kilometers. So many times I have the radio on, and I say to myself, don't put the radio on because you're going to get distracted and you're going to go over 40. So I think that's a real problem in this town. I know it's the region, but it's very, very frustrating for visitors, including myself. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think one of the things that hasn't been addressed is that Grimsby is two different areas. Like, how do you make them cohesive? How do you bring it together? I mean, when I think of Grimsby, I think of downtown. But Grimsby by the lake is a huge, they have stores, businesses. How do you bring the two together to let people know that that's not all there is here? Because, or if they're there, there's something else. Come downtown and see. I mean, I listened to Luca, and I've been to Italy, and it would be nice to have a fountain and have families sit out there at night. Wouldn't that be nice? But it's not feasible here, unfortunately, for the weather. But I think that's a big problem in Grimsby, bringing the two areas together. And I don't even know. I've heard they have a DIA and there is one for Grimsby, or is it the same? Like, are they working together? I think it's important because we're all Grimsby.
Thank you for that. Anyone else on topic number 3? All right, let's move on to the last topic then. Topic number 4. Let me just find my notes here. So this is sustainability, heritage, and balance. And we did spend a little bit of time already talking about this. But this is our final topic. Let's talk about how to grow tourism in a way that protects what matters most. Grimsby is a beautiful town with lots to offer, whether it's natural spaces, historic sites, or a sense of small town character. When we consider trying to open this community to visitors, what should we ensure is considered and balanced to preserve this beauty and unique character? And a few questions for you to think through. How can Grimsby invite more visitors without losing what makes Grimsby feel like Grimsby? What worries or concerns arise when looking at the prospect of increased visitation? What would a sustainable approach to tourism look like here? What does that mean to you?
So I'm looking mostly at what worries or concern arise when looking at prospect increased visitation. Again, I want to go on the infrastructure points. Where are we putting these people? How are we moving them around? Where are they going to park? This is all the concerns that are coming with increased visitation. Like we don't have the infrastructure at the moment. Maybe we will have them, but Another thing I wanted to say I forgot before. I remember a few years ago, I saw a special chart that came out where Grimsby was considered the 3rd town in Canada for quality of living. You remember that? The second, actually. That could be a point to bring Grimsby in the middle of to get people increased. Come and see the second town in Canada for quality of living. Are we still second, or we just dropped some positions anyway? Anyway,
I think we're first now.
Are we? So, that's a sustainable approach. Why people in Grimsby, the blue zone of Canada. Right? No, something like that, But yes, I am, I'm really worried about infrastructures and transportation also. Imagine another thing we have the wineries and we have the brewery, but people go there, they drink wine, but they can't really drink wine because they have to drive back, so somebody's not drinking. So, they can't go to restaurants, they can't go to wineries, So imagine if you have taxis taking them around from one place to another, that's going to change. That's going to change a lot, the feel. Sometimes I have people asking, can you deliver dinner at the Hotel Casablanca, room number 24? And I said, no, I'm sorry, we don't deliver, and we don't work with third parties because they are the ones making the money. But it's hard. It's hard. That's my concern.
I think you had an interesting point there about show visitors that this is a good place to live. And in our consultations, in our conversations in Grimsby, but elsewhere as well, there's this kind of common tourism saying where a good place to live is a good place to visit, right? I think there's something to that. And then it's also a good place to visit is a good place to live, and it's a very kind of cyclical nature there. I think you're onto something there. Anyone else? maybe any thoughts are on involving youth in preserving Grimsby's character and history and heritage. And another thought starter perhaps is, are there examples outside of Tuscany, perhaps, from other towns or places that you think Grimsby could learn from? Not to say that Tuscany is a good example, but just another one. I think Coburg was brought up earlier. That's great. Yeah, go ahead.
There are communities across Ontario that have lost their waterfronts, much to their chagrin. They really regret they haven't got it anymore. Ajax comes to mind, Stony Creek's gone. That's going to happen to us. If we don't get on the ball right away, because there are folks that are eyeing our waterfront, make no mistake about it, and it's not going to stay greenbelt forever. So we have to be very, very vigilant, and we have to start doing something now. Otherwise, they're going to take over. Ajax has lost theirs. Kingston's gone. I talked to Margaret Mead, the mayor of Burlington. She's very, very upset that when she came into office, much of the waterfront in Burlington is gone. And she talked about trying to reclaim it. Good luck. So, I sound like I'm urgent, and I guess I am, because the time is very limited. Thank you.
Thank you. At this point, we can move on to kind of last chance topics, but really I'll just open the floor for the next few minutes. So before we wrap up, we want to give you a final opportunity to share anything we haven't covered yet. This could be a new idea that came to mind, a theme we didn't touch on, a question we didn't cover, or reflection from one of the earlier conversations. You're welcome to just raise your hand and speak if you like. I know kind of the going back and forth.
Yeah, the only time I think that we did anything on tourism was about 20 years ago. Under the Northwest or West Tourism Association or whatever it was called, but that was 20 years ago.
I wish I could help you. My memory's getting shorter.
Is there?
All right, one last remark, and we'll start closing it down. Yep, go ahead.
That stretch.
All right, well, thank you, everybody. I'll do our closing remarks. There's just a little bit more information you should know about, and then I'll ask Councillor Reg to come here as well to do your closing remarks as well. So on behalf of the Context Research Group and the town of Grimsby, I want to sincerely thank you for your time, your insights, and your thoughtful contributions this evening. The feedback you've shared will be compiled anonymously. No names will be attached to your comments, and the findings from tonight will be used to help shape the direction of Grimsby's new tourism strategic action plan. If you'd like to add more feedback after tonight, you'll have a chance to do so. Tonight is the beginning of the consultation process. A survey has been launched that you can fill out to offer more opinions on tourism in Grimsby that will help shape the strategy's creation. We're also actively reaching out to schedule focus groups and interviews that will help further inform the plan moving forward. Some of you may be invited to take part in those sessions, and we truly hope you'll consider joining us again. Thank you for sharing your time and your voice. The strategy will only succeed if it reflects the lived experience of the people who know and love Grimsby best.
I won't say much. I just want to thank everybody for coming out, first of all. You know, I've been here 10 years, and it's my second term on council. And I'm a big believer and a big contributor and supporter of everything that's tourism in Grimsby, and I think I've experienced most of it in my short time here. But having all of you guys come out who've been here for so long, some of you were born and bred here, there's so much to offer that we haven't even scratched the surface of yet in terms of what we have for tourism. Dennis, thank you for coming out. I know you and I sat on your doorstep when I first ran the first time around. I was knocking on doors. I thought I was going to get through about 100 houses, but you held me up for about an hour, preaching to me about the waterfront. So thank you for coming out tonight. Appreciate it. And by the way, your document was passed over to these gentlemen here. They're going to include it in their report. Anyways, thanks for coming out. Really appreciate it. Let's move forward. Let's make this happen. We have an opportunity, and Grimsby is going to be on the map as one of the tourism jewels of Ontario, maybe Canada. Maybe we'll become number 2 or number 1, Luca, in the next Maclean's magazine. So, yeah, thank you very much. Good night.
By the way,